Are you absolutely exhausted by the overpacked schedules and endless demands of 21st century life? Well, you are definitely not alone. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're diving into an ancient text that offers a completely radical approach to navigating our modern chaos, the Tao Te Ching.
Okay, let's dive into this, because the very idea of conquering the world by doing, well, literally nothing, completely shatters our fundamental modern assumptions. I mean, we're conditioned, right? We're told constantly to hustle harder, that more effort automatically equals more results. We think pushing, forcing, and stressing are the only ways to achieve greatness. But the text we're unpacking today introduces a counterintuitive genius, the idea that true power and lasting success come not from forcing your will upon the world, but by learning how to flow right along with it.
So let's break down the title first. Tao roughly translates to the way or the path. Ti means virtue, and Ching means ancient text. Put them together, and you've got the book of the way and its virtue. Now you might be thinking, this is just some abstract poetry meant for a quiet mountain retreat. Actually, scratch that. It is highly poetic, sure, but it was actually written as a super practical manual for living well right in the middle of ordinary, everyday conditions.
And the mastermind behind this brilliance? The legendary sage Lao Tzu. Around 500 BC, right in the thick of the turbulent and chaotic decline of the Zhou dynasty, Lao Tzu supposedly penned these 81 brief verses. He looked around at a society that was just obsessed with power, rigid rules, and this endless striving, and he offered a totally different path, a return to the natural rhythm of the universe. He was basically telling everyone, hey, we're making this way harder than it actually needs to be.
Now, what's really interesting when we compare Taoism with the other major philosophy of the time, Confucianism, is how striking the differences are. Confucius believed the answer to chaos was more rules, highly structured relationships, and strict social conduct. Laozi, on the other hand, argued the exact opposite. Taoism favors the natural flow, spiritual balance, and those interdependent cosmic forces of yin and yang. Where Confucius wanted to organize society with rigid structures, Laozi simply wanted to align it with nature.
To really nail down this philosophy, let's think about a famous modern interpretation using Winnie the Pooh. You know Pooh's friend Rabbit, right? Rabbit is always trying to capture everything with his brain. He's constantly calculating and intellectualizing the whole shebang. But because he overthinks absolutely everything, he entirely misses the actual experience of living. Taoism is telling us that ultimate reality just can't be comprehended intellectually. You can't just think about the Tao. You literally have to experience it directly without overcomplicating it.
This brings us to a core technique in the text reversions, or basically paradoxes. The Tao Te Ching completely flips our typical values upside down. It teaches that what we usually perceive as weakness is, in reality, strength. It says what we perceive as empty space is actually incredibly valuable. Think about our modern lives for a second. We think filling every single hour of our schedule is being productive. But Taoism points out that this overcomplexity is incredibly expensive. It's a massive drain on our attention and our energy. The emptiness, the space within, that's where the actual utility lies.
So how do we visualize this abstract idea? Well, the text relies on one prominent metaphor more than any other. Consider this for a second. How could something as common, as totally everyday as water hold the secret to the entire universe? Chapter 8 spells it out perfectly. It says, "The highest goodness resembles water. Water greatly benefits myriad things without contention." Really think about that. Water gives life to absolutely everything equally, from the highest, mightiest tree to the lowest little weed. It makes zero judgments. It humbles itself by flowing naturally down into the lowest places, the very places people naturally dislike. Because it nourishes everything without arguing or competing, it perfectly mirrors the behavior of the Tao.
And then there's the ultimate paradox of water, captured so beautifully in chapter 78. Water is soft, right? It yields. You can pass your hand right through it. Yet, given enough time, that soft water will creep into the tiny cracks of the hardest mountain and literally wear it down to dust. I mean, if you've ever had a pipe burst in your house, you know this truth firsthand. Yielding overcomes brute force. Softness overcomes the hard.
And this brilliantly illustrates the vast, completely uncontainable nature of the Tao. As chapter 34 points out, it's like a flood that can flow to the left or to the right. It is endlessly flexible. It clothes and feeds all of creation, yet it never stands up and demands a round of applause. It does the work, sustains all life, and then simply retreats. It is the absolute ultimate model of selfless leadership and existence.
Let's make this highly practical for a moment. Imagine you're standing on the bank of a wide, fast-moving river, and you need to get to the other side. How exactly do you swim it?
Well, a rigid, rule-following thinker, let's say a strict Confucianist, remembers their high school geometry. The shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line, right? So they dive in, fight tooth and nail against this massive current to keep a perfectly straight line, and eventually collapse on the opposite bank, totally exhausted. But the Taoist? The Taoist doesn't fight the river. They swim with the current, angling gently toward the other side, using the water's own momentum to arrive effortlessly.
This river analogy perfectly defines the single most famous Taoist concept, Wu Wei. Now, this is often translated as non-action, but let's be clear, it absolutely does not mean just sitting on the couch doing nothing. It really means effortless action. It's about aligning your actions so perfectly with the natural flow of life that there is zero friction. Think about that friction you feel when you're forcing a project at work that just isn't coming together, or trying to control a situation totally outside your grasp. That tension? That's the exact opposite of Wu Wei. You have to stop fighting the current. When you practice Wu Wei, as the text says, nothing is left undone, but it's done without the exhausting strain of forcing it.
Let's move forward and see how this builds into our daily routines. How does this actually apply to a regular Tuesday morning? Well, the Tao Te Ching teaches simplicity, not as some strict moral rule, but as a practical observation. Every single commitment you make, every object you own, every open loop in your head, it's a claim on your attention. By intentionally valuing the space within, literally leaving blank space in your schedule and your mind, you stop draining your energy on things that just don't matter.
When we zoom out and apply this simplicity and flow to society at large, the Tao Te Ching asks us to shed 3 major human illusions. First, the belief that we are separate from the earth. Second, the belief that the earth is simply here for us to consume. And third, the belief that we are separate from each other. When we cling to these illusions, we create artificial boundaries, don't we? We exploit resources and compete relentlessly with our neighbors because we feel disconnected and scared of scarcity. But shedding these illusions leads to what the text calls the Great Integrity, a global society rooted in deep humanity, cooperation, and peace, rather than endless, exhausting competition.
So the crucial point is this. Take a hard look at your life right now. Where are you swimming directly against the current? Where are you just exhausting yourself trying to force an outcome rather than practicing Wu Wei and working with the natural flow of reality? What if, starting today, you stopped forcing your life and finally started letting it flow? Keep that question rolling around in your mind as you navigate your week. Thanks for joining this explainer, and we'll see you next time.